Welcome to Stony Creek, located in wild and wonderful southern West Virginia, here in the heart of Appalachia, nestled between the Allegheny and the Blue Ridge Mountains. Join us as we explore a culture rich in history and historical landmarks, cooking mid-Appalachian style, gardening, DIY projects, and back porch sitting. Okay, so we're going to work on our peaches today. Last night I peeled some and cut some up so they'll be ready to be boiled. We'll cook them with the sugar and lemon juice, and then we're going to can them up in jars. Okay, so we'll start with 4 cups of cut up peaches, or roughly around 3 pounds of peaches. Okay. I'm going to put them on a medium to low heat so they don't scorch. Okay, we're going to cut up a fresh lemon. That's the juice of 1 lemon. I'm going to do another. Okay, that totals 4 to 5 tablespoons. And now we need 5½ cups of sugar. Five and a half. So that's coming to a boil. I'm going to put my jars in the canner to get sterilized. This will be my first time ever making peach preserves. I'm not a big jelly fan. I prefer the preserves or the jam. I don't care for jelly too much. It is an absolutely gorgeous day here in southern West Virginia. Very hot, like 90. And we need some rain, desperately. I do feel bad for the people in Texas where Hurricane Beryl come ashore. I understand there's a lot of people without power. And if it's 90 degrees here, it's even hotter in southern Texas. So my prayers go out to all those that's affected by that storm. It's never a good thing. So we're going to let these cook for about 2½ hours. Then I'll bring you back and we'll jar them up. Okay, we're going to fill our jars up with our peaches. And I told you wrong previously. I said I was going to let this cook for 2.5 hours. That was an old recipe that I read, and that boiled them for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. Then they took them out, let them set in the refrigerator. The next day took them out again and cooked them for 20 more minutes. So I don't know, I may have to try that somewhere down the line, but not today. We're going to try it this way today. They look beautiful. See those peaches? Okay. I stopped and bought these in South Carolina on the way home from the beach, and they are very nice peaches. Very pretty, not a blemish on them, have a good taste. They are cling free. I also decided, since they were so nice, that I was going to save some of the pits, plant them in a pot, and hopefully I can get them to sprout and get some peach trees out of them. The problem here in this part of West Virginia with fruit trees is we get a little warm spell, they'll pop out and start blooming, and winter is not over. So it always frosts heavy and bites them, and it's really hard to get fruit, to grow your own fruit here in West Virginia. It is just really hard, it really is. All right, I have this a little bit left with her. I'll put that in the refrigerator for us to eat on now. Okay, we need to clean the top of our jars. A little bit of vinegar. Okay, now let's put our lids on. Turn that stove off while I'm thinking about it. My favorite jams or preserves are blackberry. My grandmother always made blackberry, and it's still my favorite to this day. Okay, we're going to turn our water up to boiling. All right, now we're going to water bath can them for 10 minutes after they come to a boil. I see Tim down there working on putting a culvert in across a ditch. And he's got my deck pressure washed and the water seal applied so I can start moving my furniture back to where it actually belongs. But it is so hot out here, you all. It is very hot today. Yesterday, the thermometer showed 90. And it sounds like the state road's working on the road out front. I hear all kinds of racket. I don't see anything yet, but yeah, it's a state road. This is the deck he just finished pressure washing and spraying. And again, I'm done with my peaches. I'm gonna put all the furniture back and where it belongs, but it looks very nice. It really keeps the boards, the deck in good shape. It really does. At least there's a breeze because I can just feel the heat off the floor hitting me. That bush hog just threw rocks everywhere. Right there lays a little pebble. Right there. Glad it was little. Our peach preserves come out of the canner. They look beautiful. I could have gotten another jelly jar or maybe two out of it, but I kept that in a bowl so we could eat on it now. Aren't they pretty? Just listen for them to seal now. Okay, I thought we would talk a little more today about history of the school and just history of our general community and area. Since we started out here in the school, I would like to go ahead and show you all that my great-grandmother, Wanda's mother, Wanda Bumgardner Lowry, her mother, Maisel Bumgardner, was a school teacher. And she taught around here in several schools. I know there was Davis School, and she would walk up from the farm to the Davis School. I also know that she taught at Judson because I have these beautiful postcards that were sent to her while she was a teacher. And the students wrote on the back, and one is this one in particular is addressed Judson. And I also have the trunk, which is this trunk that she carried her belongings in as she traveled around and stayed with people, I'm sure, to teach school. Now, this particular card does not have a postcard. A post stamp, I'm sorry. This one does. This one is also pretty neat because it came from the hotel in Talcott. It is no longer there, but this is where it came from. And the postage stamp on the back is of George Washington, and it's 1 cent. Now this one doesn't have the stamp of what date they were sent. Let's see. This one is addressed to Maisel Huffman, which was her maiden name, to Buck, which is where she grew up. Little Wolf Creek Buck. This one does have stamped over the stamp. As you can see, though, the stamp is missing, but the date's 1912. And so I have a whole bag of these. And they start in 1910, the post stamps do. And the last ones I got were 1912. But I just thought these were gorgeous. She kept each and every one. When I cleaned out the farmhouse, I found them. There's 2 big stacks like this. And so she kept every one that her students sent her throughout the years. I also have, since she was a school teacher, and this is a schoolhouse, I also have some school books that she apparently used to teach with. Let me take this picture of me and my mother out of the way and see if you can see any of these books. Things to Adventure, Life Saving and Water Safety, how we adapt ourselves to it. This one is the Elson, or it should be Nelson maybe, but Elson, E-L-S-O-N reader. Portrait and Principles over here. This big box, big book, there is one. Let's see, what is this one? This is an Elson reader book. Elson Readers, book 4. And this one has her son, Paul, and my grandmother, Wanda. Their names are in this book. So they used this book in school. Wanda Bumgardner, Ballingy, West Virginia. Paul Bumgardner. So they both used this book. My grandmother was born in 1922, I believe. So that's when this book would have been in use at that time. I know that I have a history book somewhere, and it has other names written in it from Forest Hill. I'll see if I can't find that. But I did want to bring that out since we are talking about the history of the school, our house. Put my picture back up. So I know that she taught at Davis School. I know that she taught at the school at Burger Springs, which is now gone. It was on Whitley Tabor's land in front there of his land. I know that was a school she taught at. I know she taught at Judson because, again, I have students that wrote her letters that are from Judson. So I know I have that one. We do have a couple of school desks up in the loft that actually we didn't purchase or put here. The lady that lived here prior to us, Sheila Johnson, she had purchased those desks somewhere and put them up here since this was the schoolhouse. Don't believe that they belong to the schoolhouse. They could have, but I'm not for sure about that. I don't think that they did. I do have a picture of my granny when she was teaching. I will put it on here. Again, she was Maisel Huffman from Buck, up Little Wolf Creek, and she taught schools. So I would really like to find the book that come from Forest Hill, because it has a lot of names in it that people might recognize. I'll go through the books tonight and see if I can find it and take a picture of that one and show you the names that are in that book. Okay, we'll see you later. I also wanted to share with you, when we're talking about Granny, my great-grandmother, I know that when she was a school teacher, that when the children came to school, she inspected them. I mean, she looked for lice. She looked behind their ears. She looked at their clothes. If they weren't clean, Granny sent them home to wash up and come back. Now, we couldn't do that in today's world, but that's what she did as a teacher and was expected of her to do. I just think that story is so neat that she would even check behind their ears and send them home, and say, you need clean clothes, you need to wash your face and ears, whatever the case may be. Of course, she had full discipline control over them. I know that much, and I don't know how many of you had Lena Bailey as a school teacher. I did. She was my first grade school teacher. She was very strict, very good with children, and I do know, I didn't really at first when they told me, I really didn't believe it, but then my grandmother said it was true. I do know that Uncle Paul, which was the youngest of my grandmother's siblings, there was Mark, Wanda, and Paul, and I know that Uncle Paul got to be a handful for Granny. She sent him up to Lena Bailey's and spent the summer, if not longer, under Lena Bailey's discipline and care. So I didn't know that till a few years ago, and I thought how funny that was. I had her as first grade teacher, and she was very strict. I didn't move in my seat. I mean, you just didn't. You sat there and you didn't move. If you did, or if you talked too much, you know what you were going to get. And it was a paddling with the wood board. So I have a good feeling that Miss Bailey sure set Uncle Paul straight. That's what I think. But I just think that story is very interesting. Lena Bailey lived up here at Ballingee. Our farm was just below her, towards the Burger Springs Road, and so it was just a walk through the field. So it wasn't like Polly was sent away to another state or something. He was just sent up up to Miss Bailey's. But I thought that story was so funny that Uncle Polly, he was too much for Granny. I don't know. He must have really needed some discipline at that time. But my grandmother did tell me she remembers walking up through the field to Ballingee, to the Davis School, when she was a little girl. So Granny obviously didn't teach there until she was married and had children, because, my grandmother would have been in grade school when they went there. I know that Tim's daddy went to school here. And I know that he has a newspaper that the Talcott High School students put out. And we have it here. I will try to get some pictures of that and put on the site, because that's some really neat history. I also know that they raised money to build the gymnasium there now. The gym that we used when we went to school there. And because there was the advertisements, they were asking for donations, and they were putting up stores acknowledging them and thanking them for donating to the gym, and it would also have like a running tally of how much more that money they needed in order to build the gym. So, and I'm thinking the reason I went that in that directions, and it's because I was trying to remember when Mr. Nelson stopped going to school here and started going to Talcott. He walked to high school to go to Talcott. My grandmother and grandfather walked to Talcott. Now, for my grandfather, that was a hop, skip, and jump because he lived in Talcott. But Wanda lived here, Ballingy and down on the Barger Springs Road, so they walked to school to go to high school. You know, for Tim's dad, that's a right smart little hike. He did it every day. He walked to school and walked home from school, and so did his brothers. I find that fascinating. And then, of course, when Talcott School was added on to and made bigger, it became the Central School, and it was then renamed Talcott High School. And I went to school there first through 12, with the exception of my third grade year, which we went to school at Hilldale in a 2-room school where the apartments are now, and I have a picture of that I can put on here. We went to school there. Third grade and fourth grade. For our 5th grade year, we went back to Talcott. And I can tell this story now because it's funny, or to me it is, but it wasn't when I was a kid. When we went back to Talcott from the 2-room school, which had outdoor toilets, we did not even have indoor toilets at that 2-room school at Hilldale. I don't remember having any running water in there. We could have. I don't remember that though. We may have had water to wash our hands. We may have. But anyhow, I just walked across the road because I lived there at Hilldale. My parents had built a house there at Hilldale, and that's where we lived. But when I went back to Talcott, I had Mr. Stephen Jones in the 5th grade. Scared to death of him. Thought he was strict, but he really wasn't that strict. But in the next classroom beside of us, you could hear the teacher get on to them in our classroom. That teacher was strict, and that teacher was Dallas Meadows, which is Tim's first cousin. So I've told Tim how scared I was of Dallas when I was in school, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to graduate and go on to 6th grade. I don't want him as a teacher. I was that afraid of him. But anyhow, it's laughable now because I've met him at reunions and all this stuff, and I think I might have even told him that I was petrified of him as a child. He traumatized me. I was scared to death of him. Scared of getting in trouble. But see, that's another thing. Kids nowadays, they don't have that. Not that I think that a teacher scaring a child to death is good. I don't mean that it's a good thing, but I do think and I do believe that a healthy respect for your elders, your school teachers, your Sunday school teachers, your church deacons and pastor and so forth, they need a healthy respect from children. That's gone. I knew that if I stepped out of line, I was going to get a paddling or a whipping with my dad's belt. Did it kill me? No. It didn't even leave a mark. Did it cause me to think twice before I did it again? Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. It taught me to think twice. And wait a minute, I did this once, and this is what happened. Maybe I better think this through the second time and not do it. Kids don't have that now. And control has not only been taken out of our schools for discipline, it's been taken out of the home. Because I know myself from personal experience that if I wanted to discipline one of my grandchildren, I knew that their father may have a word about me, their grandmother, discipline them. So sometimes my hands are tied. With Ashton, I had his, I could discipline Ashton. And I did when he needed it. And Ashton's a good kid now. He's a great young man. He's 18 and he's a good kid. Avon is a good kid, but a lot of hers has come from just naturally being a good kid. Avon hasn't had to have a lot of discipline, thank goodness. But I would have to think twice with Avon. I would have to go to her dad and say, this is what Avon did, and I hope you deal with it. Whereas with Ashton, I just smacked his hind end in a heartbeat and knew that I was okay to do that. So you got to stop and think. Nowadays, it's really ridiculous, because a spanking never hurt any child. I'm not talking about beating one. I'm talking about just a spanking on your butt. I used to threat Ashton all the time with a switch, and I was going to burn him legs up if he didn't stop what he was doing. And I think I did a time or two. But that's gone now. But I always remembered the stories that Granny told. Such and such wasn't clean enough. They didn't wash up enough. They had to learn how to wash up enough. Wasn't getting that at home. So she told them what to do and sent them back home and didn't come back till you were clean. That's part of learning. That's part of life. That's gone now in the schools. They're not taught that. And I'm sorry, but I think a lot of the identifying as something else issue comes from that. Not having any discipline. Children need discipline. They need it. They not only need it, they actually want it sometimes. They actually want to know that somebody is there and cares enough to set a boundary for them. I have a boundary. I can't cross that boundary, or I'm going to get in trouble with my parents. And I knew that. When I grew a little older, I knew it was out of the love for them, that they wanted me to be a good, kind, progressive, participating, human neighbor in our neighborhood. They wanted me to be a decent person and know that I have boundaries, because I'm going to tell you, in life you constantly have boundaries. They're everywhere. Work, even your home. I don't live in this home by myself. I share this home with Tim. So I have boundaries. He has boundaries because we live together. We don't cross those boundaries and we get along great. When one of us doesn't set boundaries, or we don't follow those boundaries, then it's not so good. But kids have to be taught that. So I'm sorry I got on my soapbox. I didn't mean to do that. I really was just wanting to talk about the schoolhouse and some history. I went a little bit too deep. But I do know, let me add this and I'll stop. I do know back through our field in where we live, where Tim and I live, there was a farm back there, and I can't remember the name. And I know that I read a book, and this man talks about growing up on that farm. I mean, it was a full working farm. They had geese, they had ducks, and they used the down feathers to make their own feather ticks and their own pillows, made their own quilts for their blankets, churned their milk, the whole 9 yards, raised their food and raised their cattle, their beef, and their pork. And he mentions in that book different people that lived around the area. And he also mentions that he went to Davis School. I'm not quite sure why. If Stony Creek was not built then and the kids walked that far, is a possibility if he started before this school was built. But he talks about the Davis School, and he talks about Miss Bumgardner being his teacher, and what a great teacher she was to him, and an influence that she made on this man's life. And it was so good to read in the book, to see my granny's name there, and to see that she was a good part of the community, something that was positive, something that was good, and passed that along. See, she actually passed that along. So I really like that. And I think I know where the farm was. Tim and I think we can see an old cellar or an old dairy of some type, foundation. If you go back on our property, and it's not on our property, it's actually on Mr. McKenzie's, so we didn't walk over there and look at it. But we do know about where it was at, and so that fascinates me as well, um, because he talks about what a beautiful farm it was, and I try to imagine what it was like back there from his description. But it is a neat place in the world to live. It's a small community. It's a good community. It's beautiful here. I enjoyed my trip to South Carolina to the beach very much. But when I got home, it was so green. All the trees and the grass and the gardens, and it was just beautiful to me. I was glad to be home. Alrighty, I'll see you in a little bit. Say hello to everybody. Can you say hello to everybody? No? Ellie. Ellie. Turn around here and look at me, Ellie. Say hello, Ellie. Say hello, Ellie. Okay, so I have a second batch of peach preserves almost ready to come off the stove, and I'm waiting. I got some medium syrup for peaches in jars, and then I'll be done for the night or for the day. It's been an all-day thing. And it's been a nice day here, and it was very hot, and now we had a lot of wind earlier. Not very strong, but a good breeze, and now there's no humidity, and it feels so nice out here. It's very comfortable right now. Very pleasant here in southern West Virginia. Very beautiful evening. I hope everyone's enjoying. Sitting out here with Ellie on the porch for a minute, and go back in and pour my syrup over my peaches here in a minute. So I hope everyone's had a good day. Ellie's over there snooping. She sees or hears or smells something. Who knows what it is? I don't know. But she's smelling something over there. Tim's down there working in the garage. He's got, I don't know how many projects going in the garage. So tomorrow we have a doctor's appointment in Beckley. I gotta show you Ellie. She is carrying her dinner bucket. I don't know if you can see it. She's carrying her bowl of food around. Ellie. I hope y'all got to see that. So she finally found a place that she was willing to set it down at and eat. That's what she's doing. She's a funny dog. Okay. Well, I need to water my plants. It didn't rain today. I was hoping we'd get a shower of rain, and we didn't get one today, so I'm going to have to water. I will in just a minute. I'm going to sit just a minute. So I'll see y'all back here in just a little bit.